Hi, I'm Michael Phillips. I'm the Secretary Treasurer of USW Local 1944, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about the latest round of VSPs of severance. These are just my words, these are my opinions. They're not like the official position of the local. This is just going on my own Facebook. And it's not for me to say whether people should take the packages. If you are thinking of it and you didn't take the last one, then you have every right to do what's good for you and your family, and you're gonna make the right choice, and it depends on people's different individual circumstances. But I just wanted to uh, express some what I think are observations about some contradictions in the company's narrative and in the company's actions. Every round of VSPs, and I've been around a little while now, so I'm not just talking about the last two, they try to scare people. That's their MO. They issue the packages. They want to get their target. They want to have actually more people wanting to take them than they would even release. So they have every incentive to try to scare people. And usually, what they do is they talk about the big bad future that's coming, and you might not want to be a part of it. And so, because what else are they going to say? And the theme this time, which I think is even more contradictory than usual, is that part of this big bad future is that we onshore are going to be taking more complex calls and more escalations and more callbacks situations, and that the simple stuff is going to go offshore. And right, and then at the same time they kind of imply like you're sort of expendable, and that who knows, you might even end up in a lower category of pay somehow. I've heard that as well. There's lots of contradictions there. So first of all, I don't really understand the how radical of a change it is that the stuff that we're doing on shore is more complex than what's going offshore. So much of what we're doing is escalations and callbacks. And in fact, a lot of these calls were simple when they went offshore, and then they get all screwed up and become complex. And then we have to deal with them onshore. So I'm not sure what's so unique about that, what's new about that, but they have to come up with something. So this is what they've come up with. Um, the idea that we would potentially be getting paid less, or our jobs would be less secure because we're doing higher skill, more complex stuff, basically cleaning up messes of other offshore call centers. That's contradictory. I think that's obvious that how contradictory that is. The fact that they're bringing up that they're not satisfied with how revenue is going, that's interesting, because their answer to that is to do more of the same stuff that they've been doing. So if they don't like how things are going, you'd think maybe they would change direction, and that maybe they would notice that if we have to do the complex stuff onshore and the simple stuff offshore, that it's because we know what we're doing onshore and not so much offshore. And I don't blame those agents. It's a question of training, it's a question of churn. Not even passing judgment on them. It's just a fact that we end up having to fix a lot of their stuff. So how it is that their answer to that situation where we're cleaning up the messes of others is to have fewer of us, well, it's called Telus. I mean, that's how they've been making their decisions lately. Um, it doesn't need to make sense. So anyway, the people will decide how, if you want to take the package or not. I just would say don't believe the hype. If you're going to take the package, I hope it's the right decision for you, based at this time in your life, and that you're not just going based off of a bunch of management words, because they've been acting like we, are expendable to the company at the same time as they're letting us know that they need us for these higher skill complex calls. What I feel needs to happen is that this company recognize that they do depend on the work that we do, that they survive based on the work that we do, because there are fewer of us than ever. Things are getting more screwed up than ever. The more stuff that gets offshored and contracted out, the more quality goes down the tubes. It's harder than ever to actually serve customers. It's harder than ever to work these platforms and to negotiate these processes that are just corner cutting after corner cutting. And the business is suffering because of it. And even Telus International, like if Telus International was so good at all these calls, their stock wouldn't be down 60% over the last 5 years. So look that up. Again, don't believe the hype of how global an entity Telus can be. They are dependent on the work that we do, and the bargaining unit owns that work. They can't just shift it around like a shell game and pay people less for doing more complex work. That's why there's a collective agreement. The real problem here is not that, they need more VSPs or they haven't contracted out enough or they haven't offshored enough. Usually a company would adapt to things that are going wrong by changing direction. You can't do that when you've got the same person running the organization that's been running the organization since 2000. So the big picture problem here is Darren Entwistle. He's the longest serving CEO of any global telecom. And he actually was the longest serving CEO of any global telecom 10 years ago, even. So now he's really the longest serving. And, normally a company would switch CEOs once in a while because at some point, it's the same thing with politicians and any leaders, at some point you've done the thing that you can do. And it's time to bring somebody else in to do some other stuff, to maybe correct some mistakes or to go in a different direction. It's hard to depend on the same people or the same person to, adapt and radically change direction. And it's very, he's very invested in this project of contracting out and project of offshoring. These things were new at the time when he came in, just like KPIs were new. He say what you will about him, and the union's had big issues with him over the years, but I think it's pretty clear that Telus, after he got in there, was more efficient than BC Tel was, and talking about way back in 2000. A lot of our employees probably weren't even born then, or some of them, but he brought in stuff, KPIs, contracting out, offshoring, and to a degree, you could say that Telus became a leaner, meaner, more efficient company because of that. But the problem is when you have the same person in charge for decades, is they're just beating a dead horse. They take everything too far. Things that used to work and that they used to be innovative are now stale because they've been taken too far. Contracting out has been taken too far. As far as the degradation of our telecom infrastructure and the quality of our work, offshoring has been taken too far. Constantly having to clean up what's going on overseas on these calls, and their customers just saying, oh, thank goodness I'm talking to someone on shore, so maybe I can get something done. Metrics through the roof, sales through the roof, things that used to be, they've gone way past their optimal kind of level. That's what happens when someone won't move on, when a leader won't move on. And Darren needs to move on, or the board or Telus shareholders need to move Darren on. I don't think we're going to get a lot of progress in how things work at Telus until that happens. So the bottom line, just kind of putting those two strains together, is please don't undervalue the work that you do. Don't let the company undervalue the work that you do. When you read between the lines and what they're saying, they know that your work is valuable. That's why, or at least your frontline managers and ops managers and stuff that can kind of see what's going on. They know that your work is valuable. They see that you need to resolve these complex issues and these repeat calls, but up the chain, way up the chain, you still have this fantasy, like as many of these jobs can go overseas as possible, and it's just not. It's personal. It's personal on the part of leadership at Telus, because I say that because that's the only explanation of how Telus can keep doing the wrong thing and be so invested in the status quo or in the direction that they're going that they won't reverse course. So just wanted to get some opinions out there. Opinions on my own. Have a nice day.